it's a good advice. And then I sat with this and I read it again. And as sometimes circumstances happen in life, I was faced with a situation about an action that I did. And I realized that if I had bear in mind this advice, I would have been acting differently.
It created a little bit of tension with my staff. So if I could do things differently, was learning how to deliver what needed to get done in a more gentle and supporting way where they'd be motivated to do it versus being forced to do it.
Welcome to the Alchemy of Success coffee break.
I'm Pedro, and this is your podcast for personal, business, and consciousness expansion.
And I'm Anna. And today I was just sharing with Pedro a very interesting story that I read from a book, Handling the Sufism. I think that's the right way to say Sufism, it, right? And this story really stick to my mind because because of some situation that I was going myself through, or action that I have taken, or also people engage with it. And it was so valuable that we kind of decided today to turn it into
storytelling time.
Storytelling time. So I'm going to read you the story. And after that, Pedro and I will talk a little around that, how out of this story, this lesson could be so valuable for each of us if you really consciously understand the value of the advice given in the story. So the story is called The King, the Sufi, and the Surgeon. So bear with me if I don't have the perfect pronunciation in each and every single word, In ancient times, a king of Tartary was out walking with some of his noblemen. At the roadside was Abdal. So Abdal is kind of wandering Sufi. It's so-called the changed one, somebody who integrated this kind of living into his life, who cried out, "Whoever will give me 100 dinars, I'll give him some good advice." The king stopped and said, "Abdal, what is the good advice for 100 dinars?" "Sir," answered Abdal, "order the sum to be given to me, and I will tell you immediately." The king did so, expecting to hear something extraordinary. The dervish said to him, "My advice is this: never begin anything until you have reflected what will be the end of it." At this, the nobles and everyone else present laughed, saying that the Abdal has been wise to ask for his money in advice, kind of willing to say that it's not so valuable advice. But the king said, "You have no reason to laugh at a good advice this Abdal has given me. Nobody is unaware of the fact that we should think well before doing anything. But we are daily guilty of not remembering, and the consequences are evil. I very much value the dervish advice." He decided to bear the advice always in his mind and commanded it to be written in gold on the walls and even engraved on his silver plate. Not long afterwards, a plotter desired to kill the king. He bribed the royal surgeon with a promise of the prime ministership to thrust a poisoned lancet into the king's arm. When the time came to let someone of the king's blood, a silver basin was placed to catch the blood. Suddenly, the surgeon became aware of the words engraved upon it: "Never begin anything until you have reflected what will be the end of it." it was only then that he realized that if he plotter became king, he could have him killed instantly and would not need to fulfill his bargain. The king, seeing that the surgeon was now trembling, asked him what was wrong with him. And so he confessed the truth at that very moment. The plotter was seized, and the king sent for all the people who were present when the Abdul gave him his advice and said to them, "Do you still laugh at the dervish?" So when I read it, it was like, yeah, it's a good advice. And then I sat with this and I read it again. And as sometimes circumstances happen in life, I was faced with a situation about an action that I did. And I realized that if I had bear in mind this advice, I would have been acting differently than without the advice. So I can tell you, I'm pretty sure every one of you can take this advice, write it down, like very presently. And every time when you decide to act, think about it. But even when you just take it to reflect back on things you have done during your lifetime, I'm pretty sure that if you have taken the time to sit and just think what could be the possible outcome. I'm not talking about anxiety, and I'm not talking about stopping you of doing anything. It's not this kind of energy, but more about seeing, okay, is a possibility of outcome that I can hurt people, that maybe my actions or my reaction can be misinterpreted. As we were talking in the previous episode about how to keep your authenticity when you're in a committed relationship, also to think, when I'm in a committed relationship, if I do this or that, is there a possibility to be misunderstood by my partner? Or would I like to experience, if my partner do this to me, would I like to experience that?
Exactly. Yeah, conscious decisions. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Do you have an experience, Pedro, maybe, as to give it an example, where you can say, if I had this advice like really present, stick to at front of my brain before taking some kind of decision that maybe you have done differently?
Okay. Yeah. So I got one. As a young manager, I was very demanding.
Mm-hmm.
I was very demanding, and I used to basically have meetings with my staff, and I would be very demanding as far as the deadlines and deliverables. Not being aware that being very demanding, and they obviously, I'm their boss. They feel like they need to fulfill it and all that. They know that I'm a serious guy too. When it comes to business, I can be very serious. So they felt compelled to deliver, but delivering means they had to stay late. So the stuff that they wanted to do, they weren't able to do. So they weren't able to be as free as they wanted to be. So it created a little bit of tension with my staff.
Mm-hmm.
So if I could do things differently, was learning how to deliver what needed to get done in a more gentle and supporting way where they'd be motivated to do it versus being forced to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So then looking back at it, obviously, and I looked back at this 3 years after it happened, it made me realize that, there's better ways to communicate. There's better ways to get people to do certain things that are necessary, but allow them to feel included in the process. Allow them to feel motivated. Allow them to feel empowered in the process. So you could always catch more flies, I believe, with honey. I think that's the old saying.
Yes.
And with vinegar. So I didn't know that when I was younger. So I was all like, oh, got to get it done. So yeah, so it's absolutely true. When you think about the decisions that you can make consciously, what are the end results? I didn't think about the end results of what the environment I was going to create. So that's one thing that stood out.
That's like, and the result is like,
Yeah.
is it like a nurturing environment where everybody
Exactly.
grows and like is willing to contribute out of inner drive and motivation, or they feel force and kind of like lower also their capacity to deliver? Because when people are forced, and it feels like, it's in my experience the same like you're saying it, when they're forced, they cannot like expand to the fullest potential. Instead, if they feel appreciated, because then they're willing to deliver even more.
Exactly. So I learned that painful lesson.
I got you. Very, very good. Definitely very good example. So this will be like very, very short episodes, but we'll give you one homework. So, but don't take it as like homework, like in the school. So take it more about as something that when integrating deeply, will bring you more value and help you alchemize your success even faster. Really take this sentence, write it down, and just play with it. That means when you have to take it on a small decision even. It doesn't mean to be like a big decision of like, okay, how do I handle my team or whatever, but maybe on some day-to-day decision when interacting with your children or like interacting with your partner or whatever. And just before you do something that might have an outcome that is not so, as I give you the example, maybe, for example, we do something and then can, after that, maybe hurt our partner. And when we switch the roles and we put ourselves at the position of our partner and see, okay, if my partner does this, how would I feel? And then play with it. Because and the basic of creating a successful life is always self-awareness. But please, in a very gentle way. Don't be judging with yourself, because you hear what Pedro say, but he's not judging with himself. He was now aware he wasn't as developed in the communication skills back there. So it helps nothing to go back and to like punish yourself for not having the skills yet, but more about be willing to kind of see where there is a potential of growth and play with it. And let us some comments. Maybe you have some big decision to take where it helps you kind of to meet the right decision,
That's right. Every challenge and obstacle is an opportunity to learn more about yourself and how to be better. So take it. Be
exactly.
motivated.
Exactly. And when you're willing to be vulnerable and to say, hey, I didn't know better back there. So, but I know now. And the moment you know it, then you start acting consciously and aware. So you know now this advice. So you cannot say anymore, oh, I never heard about that. You know it now. So from now on, it's a conscious decision, awareness, whether you use it or not. Right?
That's right. That's right.
Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Thanks for watching. Click on one of the videos below and don't forget to like and subscribe.